right, great. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming here. With me today from my department, Criminal Justice Bureau Chief Danielle Hageman-Clark, Chief of our Investigations Division, Aubrey Sargent, Assistant AGs serving the state's force team combating organized retail crime, Eric Sturbis and Michael Fries. From the Michigan State Police Fraud Investigation Section and serving the state's force team, First Lieutenant Steve Tomelko. From the Troy Police Department, Police Chief Frank Nastasi. Detroit Police Department Commander Rebecca McKay, who oversees their organized crime section. Warren Police Detective William Beachel, and Rod Alberts, Executive Director, Detroit Auto Dealers Association. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here with us today. Yesterday, my force team, comprised of prosecutors and agents from the Department of Attorney General and detectives from the Michigan State Police, worked collaboratively with the Detroit Police Department and officers from more than a dozen other state, federal, and local law enforcement agencies to execute arrest warrants against eight Southeast Michigan men, 6 of whom are now in custody, to stamp out an active, violent, and prolific criminal organization responsible for the thefts of over 200 vehicles, primarily directly off the lots of manufacturers and dealerships. And I think that's just the 6 individuals we have in custody, right? My understanding is that the entire enterprise is responsible for the theft of over 400 vehicles and over $30 million in losses. Our coordinated operations yesterday were a tremendous success, again securing the arrest of 6 primary operatives behind this violent theft ring, recovering 7 stolen vehicles, hundreds of associated car parts linked to stolen vehicles, a large quantity of electronic key fobs, stolen dealership license plates, burglary tools, including some devices specifically for stealing automobiles, thousands of dollars in cash, and a significant volume of additional evidence, including 9 firearms. Since August of last year, Troy police have been investigating a continuing criminal enterprise organized to steal vehicles all around Southeast Michigan, targeting locations in Oakland, Washtenaw, Macomb, and Wayne counties, with other instances also occurring in Eaton and Kent counties, as well as the states of Ohio, Illinois, Indiana, and Florida. Troy PD, helming this expansive investigation, contacted our force team in March of this year, and we are very grateful that they did. We believe this organization has stolen, again, really the total amount is over 400 vehicles, correct?
For the enterprise. Yes.
For the enterprise, right. And again, a total of over $30 million. Some of these stolen vehicles have been subsequently linked to additional crimes such as armed robbery, weapons offenses, felony evasion of police, additional carjackings, murders, and attempted murders, typically shooting from moving vehicles. It's like a Grand Theft Auto video game is really the best I can compare this enterprise to. These thefts, in their most typical form, entail young men either alone or in groups sometimes numbering more than 20, breaking and entering into new vehicle storage lots at manufacturing facilities or car dealerships, parking lots, or individual residences, and stealing vehicles with a specialized piece of manufacturer and dealer technology called a ProPad. These mass thefts transpire inside a narrow window of mere minutes. These vehicles, in some known instances, then are used in other crimes or sold to black market buyers for unknown purposes. The vehicles are sold at a dramatic fraction of their true value, sometimes a couple of $1,000s for a brand new $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 vehicle. The kind of buyer who values an unregistered car, possibly someone who's going to commit more crimes. The criminal enterprise conducts counter surveillance of law enforcement and will flee and elude officers or security present when they're confronted. This evasion has included shooting at officers and ramming security officers in their vehicles, causing severe injuries. In one instance, a security officer working a night shift on a Big Three automotive manufacturer storage lot was rammed inside her vehicle so severely that both her legs were broken upon impact. These organized thefts are as recklessly violent as are their means of escape. This organization is known to have been active right up until these arrests yesterday, including a theft incident occurring only hours before the arrest took place. These mass thefts have occurred in more than 40 jurisdictions. Our investigation has been aided by the efforts of local police agencies such as the municipal police departments of Auburn Hills, Canton, Dearborn, Detroit, East Point, Farmington Hills, Lansing, Livonia, Novi, Roseville, Royal Oak, Sterling Heights, Southfield, Walled Lake, and Warren, as well as the Oakland County Auto Theft and Macomb County Auto Theft units. Thanks to the efforts of all these agencies and more, including the efforts of loss prevention and security partners at each of the Big Three, Ford, Stellantis, General Motors, as well as the auto dealers, Bob Maxey and LaFontaine. We again arrested 6 individuals yesterday to try to put an end to this dangerous racket. Every defendant we arrested has been charged with conducting a criminal enterprise and use of a computer to commit a crime, both of which are 20-year felonies. Those individuals are Kevin Lamont Stevenson, 21 years old, from Detroit, was additionally been charged with 9 counts of receiving and concealing a stolen motor vehicle. Joseph David Doyle, 25 years old, from Onstead, who's been additionally charged with 6 counts of receiving and concealing a stolen motor vehicle. Braylon Jesse Green, 20 years old, of Wixom, who's also been charged with an additional 9 counts of receiving and concealing a motor vehicle. Dejon Trevon Bush, 20 years old, of Detroit, 7 counts of RNC motor vehicle. Zamar Terrell Johnson, 18 years old, of Troy, 12 counts of RNC motor vehicle, in addition to 2 counts of 4th degree fleeing and eluding. And Desmond Maurice Wilson, 21 years old, of Detroit, 9 counts of RNC motor vehicle, and 1 count of breaking and entering with intent to steal. We're also working with the MSP fugitive team to locate and arrest 2 additional suspects who we will not name at this time. And those individuals have been charged with conducting a criminal enterprise and use of a computer to commit a crime, 20-year felonies. The first suspect is 20 years old, from Detroit. He's also charged with an additional 8 counts of RNC motor vehicle. And the second suspect, 18 years old, from Detroit, an additional 8 counts of RNC motor vehicle. And again, these are the counts that each of these individuals face on top of the 1 count of CCE and use of a computer to commit a crime. Special agents from my department and more than 200 law enforcement officers from another dozen law enforcement agencies conducted this operation, and on scene and assisting in these arrests were men and women from my force team, the Department of Attorney General's Criminal Investigation Division, Troy Police Department, MSP, specifically their 2nd District Emergency Support and Fugitive Teams, their Aviation Unit, Technical Services Unit, Mobile Command Unit, MSP's Metro North, Monroe, and Jackson Posts, the Michigan Intelligence Operations Center, the FBI, U.S. Postal Inspection Service, Detroit Police Department, Oakland County Sheriff's Department, and the local departments of Auburn Hills, Birmingham, Blackman Township, Bloomfield Township, Canton, Grosse Pointe City, Grosse Pointe Park, Livonia, and Royal Oak. And these individuals, the 6 that I talked about, they're presently jailed at multiple locations throughout Oakland County and also Redford, right?
Just Oakland County.
Just Oakland? All right. And we'll be seeking significant and stringent bond conditions should the court see fit to offer bond in this matter. The arraignments we expect to take place tomorrow morning, correct?
Tomorrow morning and afternoon.
Tomorrow morning and afternoon. And I have this right. Novi, Warren, and Redford. That's right, at all 3 of those courts. We targeted these 8 defendants as them being the most active, most culpable of the leaders of this enterprise, or the most violent individuals to conduct these thefts. As this was an active and ongoing criminal enterprise, it was essential that we act fast, put our foot down on this operation, and halt them in their tracks before their next potentially violent auto lot assault. But our work to fully dismantle this ring is not yet over, and we have developed more than 20 additional suspects in the course of our investigation, an investigation that remains ongoing as we perfect our case files and expect to add additional arrest warrants in the weeks and months to come. And if I could speak to the remaining thieves involved in these rings who have not yet had the pleasure of meeting our special agents, let me lay it out a little bit more clearly. We know who you are, we know where you've been and what you've done, and we're coming for you next. We'll be additionally working to establish criminal cases against the many buyers of these vehicles in the weeks and months ahead. Those purchasing these brand new vehicles, along with a few bumps and scrapes for pennies on the dollar, knew fully well that they were willing participants in a criminal enterprise. And we'll be looking at all of them for potential criminal charges, and our agents are already working tirelessly to identify these demand-side partners with whom none of this conspiracy would exist had it not been for them obviously purchasing these vehicles. So I'd like to once again thank the investigators and prosecutors from my force team and all of our law enforcement partners who have worked so diligently over the course of these past few months, and especially the last 30 hours on this case. And with that, I'd like to now turn it over to First Lieutenant Steve Tomelko from the Michigan State Police.
Thank you. Good afternoon. As the Attorney General said, I'm Steve Tomelko. I am the Section Commander of the Fraud Investigations Section, which houses the fraud units and auto theft for the MSP. We also house the force team, and we've been working very closely with them for the past about year and a half. I want to first echo the AG's comments about Troy Police Department. If it was not for their diligence and hard work, this wouldn't have happened. I want to specifically call out Detective Danielle Trigger and Detective Joe Morgan for their efforts. It was an unbelievable job that they did. Approximately 3 months ago, the Troy Police Department presented the case to the force team. We immediately recognized the significance that the case had. The MSP began leveraging resources along with the Attorney General's office to work on this case. During the case, the investigation, as it progressed, we observed that the group was becoming more and more violent and frequent with their thefts. With full support of the Attorney General's office, the force team made the decision to take down the group immediately. During the planning, it took long hours. The past 3 weeks has been busy, everyone's tired, and everyone's worn out. We were having a conversation with some of our team leads, and the comment was brought up, if this goes as well as we planned, this is the type of case that has the ability to make an immediate impact for public safety. And they were exactly right. This case did make immediate public safety impact. And yesterday's announcement, or yesterday's operations, is what happened with that public safety. The success would not have been possible without the Troy Police Department's hard work and the Attorney General's force team, all of us and our law enforcement partners. On behalf of the MSP, I would like to thank the Troy Police Department, the Attorney General for trusting us to house the force team within the MSP, and all of our public safety law enforcement partners that stepped up to take down a violent group of individuals off the street and build a Michigan where everyone feels safe and secure. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today. The First Lieutenant did take some of my thunder here. I'll be repeating a lot of that. I really appreciate our Special Investigations Unit, SIU, for all their hard work. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here today. He already said Danielle and Joe Morgan. Also leading it is Sergeant Russ Bragg. They do a fantastic job and they work very hard. Like many cities in our region, Troy has been targeted by auto theft and associated criminal activity for numerous months. Recently, not only has the frequency of these crimes increased, but the reckless and violent manner in which these criminals operate has also grown. Our Special Investigations Unit, comprised of police officers from Troy, Bloomfield Township, Royal Oak, Auburn Hills, and Birmingham, have worked diligently to identify and gather evidence on the most responsible for this dangerous trend. As they progressed through the case, it became evident that cooperation among local, state, and federal law enforcement partners would be crucial for a positive enforcement outcome. I appreciate everyone's hard work and dedication. The Attorney General named numerous law enforcement agencies. So I personally thank them, thank everyone for being here, everyone's cooperation and hard work, bringing these dangerous people and holding them accountable, arresting them, and more to come. So thank you very much.
My name's Rod Alberts. I'm Executive Director of the Detroit Auto Dealers Association. And I think I can stand up here today in representation of all businesses in the community and in the region around the state, how important this is, that the steps were taken that can curb this kind of activity and violence. But I do represent 200 dealers in the Tri-County area. And I've been doing this job for 30 years now. And in my time, I've never seen such bold and brazen thefts from new car auto dealerships. Our members have had their service doors rammed in, and perpetrators with already stolen vehicles ramming these doors in and then going in and stealing more cars. We had one dealer that actually lost 9 cars in one night. So you take that over several months and all the dealers that were hit, along with the rest of the community, this is the kind of thing, again, we have to curb it with having enforcement of this kind behind it. This has become an epidemic. Again, these kind of things that are occurring with organized crime, preying on businesses in our communities, and putting law enforcement and the public in harm's way. That has to stop. And this is not just happening during the theft itself and the putting in harm's way, but also after the fact on the streets while they're driving and committing other crimes. And I personally, from the Detroit Auto Dealers and everybody in our community, we want to thank the Attorney General and her team and the police enforcement with the Troy and around the state and around Tri-County for all that you've been doing to make this happen. And it makes it a safer place, makes it greater for the community to do what they have to do, and this is a great step forward. And again, Dana Nessel, thank you for everything you've done. It means a lot to us. Thank you.
All right, well, with that, we can take some questions.
Charlie, what's the stuff on the table?
Well, it's a lot of different things, right? You have obviously some really serious firearms there, pro pads, key fobs, obviously cash. Those are fake registrations, I take it. They're counterfeit registrations. What else am I missing here?
The electronic devices that AG Nessel referred to as a pro pad. You see several of those at the front that look like kind of a tablet.
Could you pick one up and just show us what that is?
Absolutely.
Describe.
It's basically a device that is used by car thieves, supposed to be in the possession of locksmiths and car dealerships for the purpose of programming a key fob to a specific car. What we've been noticing, certainly in this investigation, but countless other investigations involving car theft, is that these types of devices are getting into the hands of thieves. And what they're doing is they're programming this device into the electrical system of a car that they're intending to steal, and then reprogramming another different key fob to be able to start and access that car. Open the doors, close the doors, turn on the engine. And what effect that has is that, number one, it allows them to steal the car, but number two, your key fob that you had in your pocket no longer works. So it is essentially a device meant to be in the hands of those responsible, such as locksmiths, car dealerships. However, it's been in the hands of criminals for quite some time.
And if I can follow that up and speak directly to our partners in the legislature, there are 13 states in the union where the mere possession, the illegal possession of a pro-pad without proper licensure is a crime. We're trying to do the same thing here in Michigan. My understanding is Representative Denise Menser, who's in Macomb County, has a bill that is pending. We'd like to see that move as quickly as possible, signed into law. We'd like to make sure it's as strong as possible. Just like it's illegal to possess burglary tools and many other kinds of specific items, with the advancements in technology, we need the law to catch up with that. And that means ensuring that the only people who are in possession of pro-pads are those who are specifically legally sanctioned to be able to do so, and that anybody else obviously be subject to criminal penalties.
Yeah, John Hewitt, WWJ. Two quick questions. The span of the thefts, over what period of time, roughly, did they take place?
I think the thefts primarily became on the radar of our investigators beginning in August of last year. Not to say that they didn't take place prior to that, but as far as kind of our more or less tracking of those thefts and what was going on, that began in August of 2023.
And up until?
Up until now.
And the other question I had is about this enterprise. Are these folks charged, for lack of a better way, the foot soldiers carrying it out, and there's others kind of pulling the strings here, or what can you share in regard to who's calling the shots on how this happens?
Well, I believe that the individuals that we charged, several of those are, in a position of somewhat of a, I don't want to say a leadership role of the entire group, but implemented systems that allowed this network to operate. Many of these individuals are of similar footing in the sense that there's no necessarily a hierarchy per se. Everyone is equally responsible for everything that they're doing in this enterprise, whether it's the 8 that the 6 that are in custody and the 2 still outstanding, and the many others that we intend to pursue after this are all within the same kind of group and quality, if you will, of individual, of mindset and behavior.
My last one, if I can slip it in, you mentioned multiple states. Any potential for federal charges versus what you're doing?
This is our investigation at this point, and the individuals that are yet to be charged, we will be pursuing them, so no.
Sarah?
Hey, Sarah Nichols, Channel 7. Is it mostly dealerships or individual car owners who have been targeted?
We multifaceted victims in this enterprise. You have Big 3, Stellantis, Ford, GM, they're overflow lots, vehicles that are in these storage lots before they get to dealerships. Oftentimes, kind of the interior is still wrapped in plastic, hasn't even made it to kind of its destination for kind of customer purchase. You have those lots. You have obviously the dealership lots that they've been hitting numerous times. And you have private citizens, everyday people living in the community that wake up in the morning and don't have a car. So you have all 3 of those different types of victims.
Victor?
Victor Williams, Local 4. What would you say to the victims of these crimes? I mean, a lot of people are affected by this day to day.
Yeah, I would say that, first of all, I spent many years as a prosecutor. I actually worked in the auto theft unit of the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office for some period of time. And anyone who thinks that these are not serious crimes is really uninformed. First of all, anytime a person loses their ability to be mobile, right? When you lose a car, and I think it's a mistake to think that everybody has the type of insurance where automatically, an insurance company pays and your car's replaced. Not everyone has that type of insurance. And I, over the course of many years of representing some of these crime victims, saw people who their whole lives, first of all, were turned completely upside down by the fact that they no longer had a car and couldn't afford to replace the car. And sometimes they lost their jobs, they lost their ability to, take their kids to school. I mean, it affects people in all kinds and all manners of ways that people really don't stop and think about when you think of property-related crimes. But In regard to these crimes, of course, we're, taking that up a notch. It's not just the number of vehicles that are stolen. It's, of course, it's the pure brazenness of these individuals and their willingness to engage in incredibly violent activities. And you think about every case, for instance, that's a fleeing and eluding case. And all of the potential victims, when you have somebody who's driving in that manner, and all of the people whose lives are put into danger as a result of that. Again, people who are literally shooting at police officers through the windows of these cars, people ramming into security vehicles and seriously injuring security workers. I mean, these people are a clear and present danger. And they're a danger not just on the auto lots, but in communities all around the state of Michigan. So what our message is by issuing these charges, and these are serious charges, we are taking these cases incredibly seriously, but it really should be a message to those who are engaged in this kind of conduct. A CCE case. It's a 20-year felony. It's a B grid, which means that, more often than not, if you're convicted of one of these crimes, you're looking at serious prison time. If you're engaged in these kinds of activities, you're going to be held accountable. We are going to seek, the maximum amount under the law. And we want people to know that, these are not victimless crimes by any measure. And we're going to continue to hold people accountable. And again, that also includes the buyer. Just because you weren't involved in the theft of the vehicle doesn't mean that you are not a part of ensuring that an organized crime ring like this is allowed to thrive. So again, we'll be going after those individuals who I believe will be in jeopardy of some of the same exact charges that you're seeing here. So I hope it sends a message loud and clear to the victims that we're here to protect you and do everything we possibly can, and that you have, of course, partnerships across multiple jurisdictions who are engaged in this effort. And again, should send a really loud message to the perpetrators of these kinds of crimes. We intend to send you to prison.
Andreas?
Honors with CBS Detroit. Back last August, when you did establish a pattern of this happening, was there a member of the 8 that you arrested that essentially kind of made the dominoes fall? Was there a break in the case among those 8?
That's not how this came about. This is the first arrest in regard to this particular ring. When I say the first 6.
All right. Yeah, John? I did have one more, please. The motive on this, I don't mean to sound naive, but if they're selling for pennies on the dollar, what was the motive for all of this? Are they still making a huge profit, or it seems like if they're doing it that way, I'm confused as to what led them to do this.
Well, when you say pennies on the dollar, if you're getting $2,000 or $2,500, that's not nothing, obviously. But it does allow, I believe, you to unload these vehicles a little bit more quickly. And based on the sheer volume, the number, it adds up. And of course, when you say, what's the motive? Well, it allows you to buy, guns. It allows you to make cash. It allows you to sometimes be driving a pretty fancy car in the event that you're holding on to one of the vehicles. But, there are all types of reasons, but I think that this table is a pretty good display of what some of those reasons are. And, there obviously have been some pretty significant consequences across many communities. And if I could say this, not just as the chief law enforcement officer of the state, but also the chief consumer advocate, the other thing that we're not seeing in terms about who is a real victim of these crimes, consumers are victims, people who seek to purchase vehicles. There is a direct nexus between the theft of these vehicles and the necessity for the sellers to increase the cost of vehicles to make up for their losses. Just as that would happen in any brick and mortar store where you see the price of items increase to make up for those losses, we see the same thing with automobiles, and that hurts everybody that depends on cars for their transportation. So there are a lot of cascading effects, and of course, one of those is the injury to consumers around the state.
Thanks. Bill?
Yeah, hi. Phil Laker from the Free Press. You said that more than 200 cars were stolen as part of this ring. How are you going to find the people that drive those cars now? And have you found any of them? And have you taken any action against any of them?
So just so I can make sure that we're clarifying, my understanding is that for the ring as a whole, we're really talking about over 400 vehicles at this point, right?
Up to 400 or more.
Okay, up to 400 or more. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. But if you want to answer the rest of that question.
Sure. And just to clarify your question, where is the car now?
All these cars,
Correct.
somebody's driving them. How are you going to find those folks? Have you found any of them so far? What actions have you taken?
There's multiple law enforcement agencies that have been involved in investigating this stolen theft ring for months, since August. Although many of those departments didn't necessarily have a suspect at play, those departments took police reports and documented and detailed the theft that occurred, the owner of the vehicle, and their information, and we are going to be in contact with many, if not all of them, as this case continues, to kind of let them know what's going on. But as far as where those cars are now, those cars, a number of things, chopped up and disseminated, sold for parts, whether it's exhaust, engines, doors, hoods. As you indicated, one of the charges likely that may come is operating a chop shop, which what was discovered at one of the search warrant scenes yesterday morning in Onstead, Michigan. In addition to that, a lot of these individuals are just taking them for kind of a weekend, a joyride, if you will, because it looks cool and they're driving an $80,000 car. I guess that's motivation enough.
So are they being found abandoned?
Some of them are found abandoned. Others are not found at all because they're chopped up. And others, we believe, are kind of shipped and packaged probably to the ports and likely, taken overseas.
All right, now time to go back to Charlie here.
Just real quick, did I get this right, that these are, the oldest of this group is 25? These are 18 and 20. Why so young, do you think?
Well,
If anybody else wants to try, take a step at that.
sure.
I guess best way to answer it, it's a crime of opportunity. They see other individuals doing it, and it's quick cash, and it's truthfully fairly simple to do. So they start recruiting groups, and that's how they get caught up into these crime rings. Young individuals, we're seeing all the way down to 11 years old. They're involved in this. It's just, unfortunately, just how it's happening right now. So.